Pay attention to Maribel Ramos. It's 7:15 in the evening on May 2nd, 2013. A surveillance camera captures her dropping off her rent check. She's just 3 weeks away from graduating from Cal State Fullerton with a degree in criminal justice. 3 weeks away from starting her dream job with the Department of Veterans Affairs, Maribel has no idea that when she returns to her apartment in Orange, California, her roommate, Casey Joy, is already waiting for her. She doesn't know that an argument over unpaid rent will become their final conversation. She doesn't know that she has only hours left to live. This is the story of an Iraq War veteran who survived 2 combat tours only to be murdered in her own home. Killed by the man she welcomed inside. A man who spent more than $10,000 on plastic surgery to make himself look younger for her. A man whose obsession turned deadly the moment she told him to leave. And from that moment on, nothing about Maribel's future would ever happen. Maribel Ramos was born on November 22, 1976. The people who knew her best described her as compassionate, ambitious, and hardworking. Growing up, Maribel was a tomboy with a clear dream. After high school, she worked as a security guard for Kmart. But she wanted more. In August of 2001, Maribel joined the United States Army. Just weeks later, September 11th happened. She knew then that her life was about to change. Maribel deployed overseas and served 2 combat tours in Iraq. She rose to the rank of Army Sergeant, leading soldiers in one of the most dangerous conflicts in recent American history. She survived explosions, combat patrols, the constant, unrelenting threat of death. And she came home in 2008 with an honorable discharge and a plan. Maribel enrolled at California State University, Fullerton, studying criminal justice, the career she had dreamed about since childhood. She became active in the campus veterans community. She worked as a student assistant in university outreach and veterans certification. By May of 2013, Maribel was just weeks away from graduating. She had already secured a position with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Everything she had worked for was finally coming together. After Maribel's mother passed away in 2009, she began living alone in her apartment in Orange, California. Living alone was expensive, and Maribel needed help with the rent. So she posted an ad on Craigslist looking for a roommate. That's when Kwang Chol, Casey Joy, responded. Casey Joy was in his mid-50s. He described himself as an easygoing man looking for work in Huntington Beach. When Maribel and her sister, Lucy Gonzalez, met him, he seemed harmless, quiet, well-mannered, solitary. He appeared to have no family, no close friends, no real connections in the area, and that made him seem lonely and safe. Maribel, compassionate as always, felt sorry for him. She let him move in. Over time, she invited him to family events, to dinners, to game nights. She introduced him to her sister, to her relatives. They walked their dogs together. They went grocery shopping together. Casey Joy slowly became part of Maribel's life, or at least, that's what Maribel thought. Because Casey Joy wasn't looking for friendship. He was developing an obsession. In the summer of 2012, Joy confided something to Maribel's sister Lucy. He told her he wanted to marry Maribel, that he wanted to have children with her. Lucy was stunned. She told Joy, clearly and firmly, that Maribel didn't feel that way, that they were just roommates, just friends. But Joy refused to accept it. Instead, he became determined, convinced that if he tried hard enough, if he proved himself, he could make Maribel love him. And that belief would soon turn dangerous. Joy's attempts to change himself became desperate and extreme. He bought an entirely new wardrobe, trying to dress the way he thought Maribel would find attractive. He got a tattoo. He even paid for a cruise for the two of them. Later, Joy would insist they slept in separate beds. But the most disturbing change was still to come. Joy spent more than $10,000 on plastic surgery, trying to make himself look younger, more desirable, to a woman nearly 20 years his junior. None of it worked. Maribel still saw him as exactly what he was, a roommate. She was dating other men. She used apps like Plenty of Fish to meet people. She had a boyfriend, Paul Lopez. Joy wasn't just unwanted. He wasn't even on her romantic radar. By early 2013, the living situation began to fall apart. Joy stopped paying rent. Maribel needed that money. She couldn't afford to cover his share indefinitely. At the end of April 2013, Maribel told Joy he had to move out. Joy made excuses. He delayed. He claimed he needed more time, that he was looking, that he hadn't found another place yet. Maribel gave him chances, but by early May, she was done. 12 days before she disappeared, Maribel made a chilling 911 call. She told dispatchers that she felt unsafe. Then she said something that should have stopped everything. "I'm just calling to let you guys know that if something happens, I did it because I was trying to defend myself." Think about that. Maribel Ramos, an Army sergeant, a woman who survived 2 combat tours in Iraq, felt threatened enough by her own roommate to preemptively explain that any violence would be self-defense. She knew Joy was dangerous, and she was afraid of what he might do. On the night of May 2nd, 2013, the tension finally exploded. Maribel and Joy got into a heated argument. She told him he had to leave the next day. No more delays. During the confrontation, Maribel called her boyfriend, Paul Lopez, and put him on speakerphone. Paul spoke directly to Joy. He warned him that if he didn't leave, he would come over himself and physically move Joy's belongings out. The message couldn't have been clearer. Joy was out of time. He had to go. And for Joy, that realization would prove unbearable. At 7:15 p.m. on May 2nd, 2013, surveillance footage captured Maribel Ramos dropping off her rent check. That was the last confirmed sighting of her alive. When Maribel returned to the apartment that night, Casey Joy was there. What happened in the hours that followed, we may never know completely. Joy never gave a full confession, but based on the evidence and the circumstances, investigators believe Joy ambushed Maribel, possibly while she slept. Because of the body's decomposition, the medical examiner could not determine an exact cause of death. Prosecutors theorized that Joy may have smothered her. In a fair fight, Maribel's combat training would likely have allowed her to overpower a man in his mid-50s. Joy knew that, so he didn't give her a fair fight. The next day, May 3rd, Maribel failed to show up for her weekly softball game. Her family knew immediately something was wrong. Maribel was reliable, disciplined by years of military service. She didn't miss commitments. They called her phone. No answer. They went to her apartment. Casey Joy told them he'd gone for a long drive after their argument the night before. He claimed that when he returned, Maribel was gone. At first, Joy appeared concerned. He participated in media interviews. He called Maribel his only friend, his only family. But his behavior didn't sit right. He refused to attend vigils. He avoided organized searches. And he began distancing himself from the Ramos family. The Orange Police Department launched a full investigation. Detectives interviewed everyone in Maribel's life. They looked at Paul Lopez and other men Maribel had met through dating apps. Cell phone records and surveillance footage cleared them all. Attention narrowed to Casey Joy, the last person to see Maribel alive, the man she'd told to leave, the man she'd called 911 about weeks earlier. Police seized Joy's laptop as part of the investigation. Without his computer, Joy began using public computers at a local library. Detectives obtained a warrant to monitor his internet activity in real time. What they saw was damning. Joy was obsessively following the case, reading articles about Maribel's disappearance. Then his searches changed. How long does it take a human body to decay? Next, Joy opened Google Earth. He zoomed in on a single tree in a remote canyon, staring at the satellite image as if checking on something he had left behind. On May 16, 2013, while Joy was still at the library, police dispatched a search team to the exact location he'd been studying. Within 30 minutes, they found a decomposing body in a shallow grave near Majeska Canyon off Santiago Canyon Road. The remains were so badly decomposed that Maribel could only be identified through dental records. Casey Joy had murdered her, driven her body to this remote location, buried her in a shallow grave, and returned home to play the role of the concerned roommate. Police arrested Casey Joy on May 17, 2013. When officers arrived at the apartment, Joy tried to escape, jumping out of a window. He didn't get far. He was caught, handcuffed, and charged with murder. The trial was difficult for prosecutors. Almost all of the evidence was circumstantial. There was no DNA, no fingerprints, no direct physical evidence placing Casey Joy in the act of killing Maribel inside the apartment. Because of decomposition, the medical examiner could not determine an exact cause of death. But the circumstantial evidence was overwhelming. Joy's library search history, showing him zooming in on the burial site before police even knew it existed. Maribel's 911 call, where she expressed fear of Joy weeks before her disappearance. The history of his obsession, the unreturned feelings, the $10,000 in plastic surgery, the rent dispute, and the scratches found on Joy's body, which he claimed were non-specific abrasions, not fingernail marks from someone fighting for her life. Then came a moment that stunned the courtroom. During opening statements, Joy's own defense attorney acknowledged that Maribel was dead, and that Joy had improperly disposed of her body. The defense wasn't claiming Joy didn't bury her. They were only arguing that he didn't kill her, that Maribel had died some other way, and Joy panicked and hid the body. The jury didn't believe it. In July 2014, the jury found Kwang Chol Joy guilty of second-degree murder. On September 12, 2014, he was sentenced to 15 years to life in state prison. During sentencing, Joy maintained his innocence. He said he couldn't apologize for something he didn't do. He claimed he'd been set up. He even spoke fondly of Maribel, mentioning their walks with their dogs, as if he were the victim, as if he hadn't murdered a woman who had shown him nothing but kindness. Maribel Ramos would be 47 years old today if Casey Joy had not killed her. She would have graduated from Cal State Fullerton in 2013. She would have worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs, helping other veterans transition back to civilian life. She might have married. She might have had children. She might have grown old with someone who truly loved and respected her. Instead, her life ended at 36, murdered by the man she trusted enough to let into her home, and buried in a shallow grave in a remote canyon. Maribel survived war. She did not survive the obsession that followed her home.